So we had finished the previous month sutra, the sutra number 12. Vishmayo Yoga Bhumikaha. So, what are the stages of development of a person who is an aspirant, who is in this Saiva Advaitavada, the Siva Sutra Marga of Sadhana? The advice is mentioning is that there is not a linear path where you are sort of extending your progress from one milestone to another. In this path, because they have mentioned Udyamo Bhairavaha, so his journey is the destination. If a person is able to disconnect himself from the limitations of his action and his knowledge and his association with his immediate surroundings, and is able to unravel the mystery, because we have already done some sutras, Jnanam Bandhaha, Jnana Adhisthana Matraka, and all these slokas we have already done as to how a person understands Sakti Chakra Sandhane, Vishwa Sangharaha. So when you start understanding the mystery of this creation, how that works, then the world doesn't get destroyed. It loses the force of its influence over you. It's like the enemy is around but doesn't know how to deal with you, because you are far more powerful, because you have connected yourself, identified yourself, you have immersed yourself in the supreme consciousness of Shiva. And this marga, it says that when a person arrives, he has experienced what is called Bhairavapatti. He gains that Bhairavahood. Here is nothing to do. It's pure, a high level of self-awareness or consciousness. Then the spirituality in him blossoms forth with newness each movement. I mean, he sort of moves forward. Each moment, there is a newness to it. And it creates some kind of a overwhelming surprise every moment, because as he ascends and becomes closer and closer, and to sort of he nears absolute immersion in that divine consciousness, he is kind of overwhelmed with great enchantment. He has many divine experiences, as we were discussing in the last class. In the beginning, initial stages, all of us do experience a few spiritual experiences. You could be listening to some sounds, it could be experiencing some smell, or suddenly you are reminded of something. It's very normal. If a person does any puja or anything, you have that sense of happiness without a reason. Like those people who do Navaratra these days, you will find they look very fresh and happy, even though they are actually undergoing a food regimen marked by immense self-restraint. They would not take this, they won't take that, they'll take very little food, maybe fruits, a little milk at night. Yet they're very luminous. And this luminosity has no direct region. You can't connect it with any particular causality which you are experiencing in your everyday life. Like, for example, somebody gave you a gift, you got a good news, you met a good friend, you had a good dinner, none of these. But that sort of blossoms, that materializes, that becomes explicit within you, which you cannot express to others. That is the sense of amazement on this path of inward journey towards the self that we discussed in the last one. Now, actually, if we are able to establish ourselves in that sort of a sadhana bhumi, remember that this is sambhavopaya, sambhavo, something to do with Shambhu, that Paramashiva Tattva. So this is for highest level of students who, without much effort, are able to somersault to a very high level of equanimity and alignment with the supreme divine consciousness. What happens? If you look at everyday lives, when a person has an examination, even though there could be a cricket tournament going on, there could be rugby or basketball, something is going on, it's there on the TV set. He has an assignment to submit. Is he thinking about anything? No, he's only thinking about that. Because it's a question of life and death for him. So absolutely he has no distraction. Now you have a lot of people who are single in the hostels or in the universities. They have a lot of friends and they have these parties and stuff like that. Same guy gets married. The same girl gets married. Somebody calls up, we're going to have a party. Are you joining? No, I'm not well. It's not that she or he is avoiding her or his friends. The whole map of his or her life has changed. Or somebody is not doing a job, suddenly he starts doing a job or changes his job. It's a new context in which that person and his consciousness and all his volition, his action, they are all guided and aligned with that newfound vision, newfound roadmap. And he looks like a person who is kind of possessed because he's moving in one particular direction. What happens to the guy? Now let's come to our context, why I gave these examples. When a person is on this spiritual journey path and he attains that Bhairavapatti stage where he doesn't see himself or herself anymore as different, distinct, separate from that supreme divine consciousness called Paramashiva, what happens to him? What kind of thoughts come to him? Does he also fancy a film or a visit or a tour program? What does he think about? What kind of thoughts come to his mind? Like a child is all over the place at home. He latches onto anything which is interesting. Same child goes to school after 4 or 5 years. The younger sibling or another cousin who has come home, when he is playing and doing all that he was doing a while ago, he gets irritated, saying, "You're disturbing my studies." So there is a hint to that in this powerful sutra, and it's very timely because the Navaratra is going on. And the sutra goes like this: Ichha Sakti Ruma Kumari. Ichha Sakti here is not of Paramashiva, because we are talking about different stages of the sadhaka as he is ascending one after the other and going closer and closer to that supreme immersion in that supreme consciousness. And he's saying that when he nears that stage, when he is in that stage, he doesn't have anymore any individual will because he is no more an individual. The separative ego, that I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm doing this, I'm doing that all vanishes. He doesn't think about his house, his country, his nation, his college, his university, his company. No. Because these are different levels of limitation. What appears to be an expanded field is a limitation if you take into picture, take into view the next higher level of manifestation. Now he is at the highest level of manifestation, that divine consciousness, and is identifying with it. So he no more has petty, limited desires, volitions, movements, inclinations, affiliations. They lose sense for him. And that state now is being described, that Shakti, that Ichha Shakti. We know about Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. We have these 5 Shaktis of Paramashiva. Isn't it? You have Chit Shakti, Ananda Shakti, then Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. These are the 5 Shaktis that we have discussed earlier. And here, Ichha Shakti is given a lot of importance in this sutra, saying that Ichha Shakti hi Uma Kumari. Now, 3 words are described, are used to describe what is the nature of will of that sadhaka who has ascended to a very high level of unity and union with the Supreme Consciousness. That willpower then attains a name. We're giving the name to describe it. And how do we make sense of it? We're using 3 words: Shaktihi, Uma, Kumari. So that Ichha Shaktihi, 2 more words, Uma and Kumari. Who is Uma here? The Uma here is absolutely not Lord Shiva's wife. No, that's not why the Uma word is used. So, as we were mentioning that commentary at the end, पूर्ववतिन्यां योगभूमिकायां समापन्नस्य योगिनः किं भवति तदा इच्छाशक्तिः. What happens to the person who attains the highest stage? He's saying he experiences ichhasakti, Uma Kumari. His desire, his will now is capable of being described, refer to it as Uma Kumari. And what does it mean? Parama Bhairava Rupatam Praptasya Mahayoginaha Ya Ichha Jayate. That Parama Bhairava who is established in the Supreme Shiva consciousness, the kind of desire which arises in him. Sa Sakti Bhavati Uma. That desire has the power. That power is described as Uma. Arthat Parameshwari Swatantra Rupini. That Uma here is not Lord Shiva's wife. It is of Supreme Swatantra Sakti, which is absolutely not different from Shiva. She is the Swatantra Sakti, that full independent power of Lord Shiva. Can't do anything. Uma Yaduktam Ya Asya Ichhasa Asya Sakti Sacha Kumari. And then she herself is also Kumari. And there are two beautiful words. One is Uma and another is Kumari. The secret lies in these two words. And we will unravel them. Bhagavati Uma na kasyachid patni asti. Bhagavati Patni, Uma is no one's wife. We say Uma, when we are doing Naivedyam, we might say Om Ume Maishwarabhyam Naivedyam Samarpayam. We may say that. Ganesh Ambika Abhyam Naivedyam Samarpayami. Ganesh and Ambika or Uma is supreme consciousness. We can't associate with, and she's no different from Parameshwara, Paramashiva. So he's saying, Kasyati Patni Asti Apitu Kanya Rupa Kumari. Why are they introducing this word, Kumari, which symbolizes virginity, absolute purity? Why do they say that? Ateva Sa Bhagavati Uma Devi Vishwa Sarga Sanghara Kridayam Eva Nirandaram Sanglagna Tishtati. That Kumari Kridayam, that Kshemaraja will explain. That Kumari Shabda, Kumara Kridayam. A little girl, she moves around and plays and stuff like that. No? That's so divine if you look at children. If you see many YouTube videos when there's a little girl, the mother acts as if she's falling dead and the baby tries to take care of her. Sometimes she wants to mother her own mother. She's trying to mother her own dad as a little child. And she absolutely has no evil in her. And the mind gets corrupted as she's exposed to social media and television, all kinds of nonsense. But that beautiful purity, pristine, extremely, there's absolutely no duality over there. That is that Kumari thing. And then there is also another interpretation that will go, Kum Marati Kumari, which destroys Kum. Kum here is Bheda Buddhi. We'll look at that. So this, having said that, now I'll read the Kshemaraja Siva Sutra Vimarshini and we'll translate it and unravel it and make sense of it. So, just give me 1 second. So, Ichha Sakti Kumari. So, what does he say? Idrika Yoga Bhumika Samapannasya Asya Yoginaha. So, we are talking about not Ichha Sakti of Paramashiva, but we are talking about Ichha Sakti of a yogi who has established himself in the supreme consciousness. Will of the yogi. Yoginaha, who is that? Para Bhairava Vatam. The person who has attained that level of Shivahood, Bhairavahood. Samapannasya Ya Ichha, that will, which is of that sort of a supreme yogi, Sa Saktihi, that Shakti, that desire, that willpower of that person is Saktihi Uma. Para eva Parameshwari Swatantra Rupa. That Uma here is not wife of anyone, but Uma symbolizes that Parameshwari, that Shakti of Parameshwara. Swatantra Rupa. Sacha Kumari, and she is also Kumari, a little virgin girl. What does it mean? Vishwa Sarga Sanghara Kridapara Kumara Kridayam iti Pathat. Because here sees that consciousness, that willpower, which plays in this whole universe. It plays out. It creates, it sustains, it destroys. You look at these little girls, they play wonderful games. They play games about cooking, they'll set up a kitchen, and they buy a hell lot of dolls, and they have some group activities. They make wonderful things. Building a house, they play business and homemaking and all kinds of things are available. Then what happens after they do it? They destroy it. They open everything, put it in the box, and go and sleep, have food. Next day, they want to play another game. That is that beauty of that Kumari Shakti that he's talking about. That is non-different from Paramashiva. And therefore, it's fully in all its powers to create, sustain, and destroy anything that she wishes. Atha cha kung, there is another way of interpreting it. This first interpretation, Kshemaraja is talking about Avhedapara, Bheda Bhedapara, and Abhedapara. Having different states of our sadhana. When we are supremely, when you have Dhyatri Dheyam Paritejya, when we sacrifice the Dhyatri, I'm a Dhyata, Dheyam, I'm meditating on this. Dhyanam, I'm a meditator doing the meditation. Forget about all that. And your vritti becomes Dhyakara, identified with the Dheya Vastu, whatever you're meditating on. It's like Radha was meditating on Lord Krishna, and then her consciousness is Krishna consciousness. There is no one. She's only seeing Lord Krishna. Like Mirabai, or so many devotees. You look at Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He used to think, I myself is Ma Kali. There's no difference. And once there was a big problem because while offering food to Ma Kali, he was actually eating it sitting at the temple. And the Mathur Sahib's nephew or someone who got very angry and he wanted to beat him up. And then there was some kind of a problem. And then Mathur Sahib himself intervened and said, you do not understand what he's doing. He's no more seeing himself. And when he thinks he is actually feeding Ma Kali, at that level you are seeing him as a human being. But how does a person feed Ma Kali when he is no different from her? He's putting it in the mouth of Ma Kali. Another is seeing that he is putting into his own mouth. Look at the miserable situation. So he is saying here that Kum Bhedo Thapikang Maya Bhumim Marayati. So there is the Bheda Paraga, another interpretation. Kum is Bheda Buddhi. The differential perception. You are seeing things as different from each other. Some Bheda Buddhi. That Kum Maya Bhumim Marayati. It destroys. Now, that there are two things here. Because it's will of Lord Shiva. What did he like to do? He liked to destroy all dualities. So the sadhaka who is established in Shiva consciousness will not allow any duality to emerge and again capture him back into the trap of samsara. Therefore, he says, Kum Marayati Maya Bhumi Marayati Anudha Bhinna Prasaram Karoti. Bhinna Prasara, Maya. The moment you have Maya Shakti, what happens? No, we're talking about Ichha Shakti here. Maya Shakti comes, there is a moment of unity and duality. The unity consciousness, because now it has to create and Maya is going to play its game, it starts veiling, it starts covering up things. And the dualities will come, that's how samsara will take shape. All these little things will appear real to us and then we'll run after them and we'll forget our own Swarupa, which is that of Paramashiva. Therefore he's saying, Anudbhinna Prasaram Karoti Tatshila. Anudbhinna Prasaram. Not allowing the dualities in our consciousness to spread any further and destroys all differential perceptions and then pulls us up and guides us towards that absolute unity with the Shiva consciousness. Koroti tatshila kumari cha paranupobhagya bhoktrikatmena sphuranti. This is another new beautiful interpretation. If you look at a little girl, is she looking for a boyfriend? Of course, these days, the minds of children are also very corrupted. 3-year-old boys and girls are talking about boyfriends and girlfriends. That's fine. That's for fun. But you look at a Kumari, this whole idea of a Kumari is that she is not parabhogya. She is not going to allow herself to be subjected to or remain an object of anybody else's enjoyment. What does it mean? That icha, what he says is very powerful here. Bhoktrika atmena. Now, Kumari enters into a relationship. Of course, she also enjoys, but she also becomes bhogya, becomes an object of enjoyment. She sort of gets into something. Now, when she is meditative in herself, now we are not talking about any human girl. Huh? We are talking about that willpower. There are two ways in which our Isha Shakti can work. We have a will to write a paper. You have a will, you have a Shankalpa that you want to go to Badrinath, you want to build a house, you want to have a holiday program. Your desires, your willpower, your Ichha Shakti have become a vehicle or an instrumental for achieving an external goal. They become instrumental. When they become an end in itself, they become bhokta. That willpower is not there because that willpower wants anything. We are talking about a Parama Yogi who is established in the highest level. Therefore, he says, Bhoktri Katmyena Spuranti. And then, let's go to Bheda Paraka. Now, what is that? Is again a beautiful interpretation. Athava Yatha Uma Kumari Parihritta Sarvasanga Maheshwari Katmya Sadhana Radhanaya Nitya Udyukta Tatheva Asya Ichha. Asya Yogina Ichha. This is a beautiful interpretation. You know, Shati, he got Lord Shiva. Then after what happens? Then, she sacrificed her body and again she took a body. And she's again looking for Lord Shiva. She did intense sadhana. She did intense sadhana to get him back, and she did this sadhana again and again. When she's doing this sadhana, she's absolutely not distracted by anything else on earth. She's doing that tapasya all the time. Saying, Yatha Uma Kumari Parihritta Sarva Sangaha. She has withdrawn herself from all sorts of associations and attachments. Why? She has withdrawn herself because she as a Kumari, Maheshwara Ekatmya Sadhana Radhanaya. She wants to have that Ekatmya Bhava to attain the absolute non-difference. With whom? Paramashiva. Because she's actually not different. That is the beauty of this whole set of sutras and words and mantras that we are reading. Swarupataha Shiva Shakti Eka Eva. And Shakti wants to be identified with Shiva, and that Isha Shakti, all this is being narrated saying, when that truth is lost, the consciousness descends. It's like a problem of mild schizophrenia. Actually, there's a Western psychiatrist who has worked on Vedanta, and he's trying to explain this whole samsara within a model of what is called a panpsychism model. Everything is one consciousness. How do you explain so many people thinking differently if consciousness is one? And he has a beautiful explanation. I liked it. I'm forgetting the name. I'll give you the name. So what he's trying to say is that a person has personality disorder. He's just one guy. He has one consciousness. In the morning, he behaves like a poet. And suddenly he finds a couple of young girls. He turns very flirtatious. And then he goes to a temple or a church, a mosque, and turns very spiritual. And then he is on a trip, and he becomes like a, ecological fanatic, loves nature. His mind is behaving as a set of different persons, even though it's one consciousness. And he's saying that when that fellow, if you treat him well, if he can get rid of all these dissociation disorders, he regains the unity of consciousness. This whole samsara in the Advaita Jnana, once we get rid of all this Bheda Buddhi, then it becomes one. Once we are able to, Tatra ko shoka ko moha ekatvam anuvashyatah. Once you are able to see that ekatvam, then what dvesha, what dukkha, What attachment? Attachment to what? It's only one thing that exists, that's pure consciousness, and you are no different from it. Dvesha, dukkha, that I lost it. I lost a man, I lost a girl, lost my dad, I lost my, my money. All these thoughts, something different from you. These differences all get dissolved. So what can you lose? Ekatvam anupashyata. Once you see that unity, you are instantly liberated, and that's how you're trying to make sense of it. And that is very beautiful here. He's saying, Athava yatha Uma Kumari Parihrita Sarva Sangha Maheshwarika Atma Sadhana Maheshwarika Atma Sadhana Radhanaya Nitya Udyukta. And he's all the time alert, dedicated. Why? She wants to retain her non-division, non-duality, supreme unity with Lord Shiva. She wants to gain that Shiva Swarupata. Atha eva asya ichha. Whose? Yogina ichha. The way Ma Parvati sought the companionship with the Paramashiva by doing a lot of sadhana without any distraction, the yogi in this higher state is absolutely not vulnerable to any distraction back towards the samsara. Apitu, all the time, his consciousness is being guided towards, without any distraction, towards Paramashiva. Iti asmad guruvire iti itham eva patho drishta vyakyatasya. Kshemaraja is saying is that this is what I have learned from my guru. This is the best way to move and make sense of this sutra. Ichha Saktir Uma Kumari. Your Ichha Sakti should be that. It should be like that of Kumari. In what dasa? Which by having, there are two levels that Kumari word you can make sense of. One is that Swatantra Sakti. The other one is Bheda Paraka interpretation, where you are recognizing the possibilities of non-dualities and then energy and the willpower to wash away, flush out all these possibilities, inklings of duality in our consciousness. Then he's saying, Annistu Saktitama iti patitva jnana kriya apeksho asyaha prakarsho vyakhyataha. There are other people who also replace that word Ichha Sakti Ruma Kumari. They say Ichha Sakti Tama Kumari. Ichha Sakti Tama Kumari. See, they are breaking this sentence. Ichha Sakti Tama. Ichha is supreme among all Saktis. What are the Saktis? Jnana Sakti, Kriya Sakti, and Ichha Sakti. So Ichha Sakti is much superior to Jnana Sakti and Kriya Sakti. So you may not be having a very masculine physique or very, you have a very good, strong body. You're very handsome, very attractive. Or you have read a lot of books. Does that guarantee that you're going to be in Paramashiva Hava? No. What is it going to guarantee? If you have that supreme willpower to orient all that you have towards the supreme union. So here, there is a lot of emphasis which is laid on the importance of a sadhak's willpower. And that's true if you look at everyday's life. The people, I think long back, I think I have read a piece, must be about 35 years back or so, in Reader's Digest on what makes a genius. And they had stood and understood a few characters. One was Madame Curie, who was a very fairly good average student. You remember she had some economic issues and she was so hungry that once she had a lot of raddies because she was hungry, and then she was taken to the hospital. She vomited. Her brother-in-law came and said, "What happened?" She couldn't tell him that I was so hungry that I took some carrots and raddies and there was something wrong, some acidity, and she puked. And she goes to the university and then she gets Nobel Prize twice. If you look at Gandhi, he was a very average student, and anybody who scored a third division in high school examination in India was to sort of describe their marks as, what division did you get? A Gandhi division, which means third division. 35% or 40% or whatever it is. Where did he reach? And if you look at many people who have reached the pinnacle of their success in the spiritual path, are not necessarily the greatest of intellectuals or greatest of very active people who have a very powerful. But on the other hand, what do you have? They have complete unity of purpose. Look at Thakur. Sometimes somebody was discussing deductive logic with him. He wanted to say, what is this logic? Can you talk a little about it? That was his way of conversation. He will say, can we talk a little about it? Then that fellow started talking about logic. He heard it for a while. Then he lost it. He said, okay, stop it. Now I've had enough of it. What is there in it? That's all. You know, he didn't feel the presence of divinity in these words that he was hearing. His mind was focused on Makali. And for him, she was Param Brahma Swarupini. There's no Advaitavad or anything. He said, okay, fine, I have my Advaita understanding, not an issue. But I don't want to abandon my Divine Mother. I like to do the Savguna Brahman. Who are you to decide whether Brahman is Saguna or Nirguna? He returns to that thing and he continues. He says, I'm in love with my Divine Mother. I'm not going to sacrifice it for anything. You look at Buddha. If you look at the dialogues and all, Nagarjuna was perhaps far more sophisticated compared to Buddha, and Buddha spoke in simple language. Many of the arguments actually developed later than him, not exactly by him. He was straightforward, but he wasn't so sophisticated philosophically. Straightforward. If you look at many, Jesus, what was he? He was a great intellectual. Who are his disciples, by the way? Great university graduates or something, nothing of that sort. It is that power, that identification of the divinity. When you see yourself as a part of that divine thing, you are already divine, and then whatever you wish, it happens. That is the beauty of it. That's what he's going to explain in the next couple of verses. He's saying, Evang na laukikavata asya yoginaha sthulecha. These yogis don't have the simple, stupid desires the way we have, like to have a house and a car and money and name and fame. Apitu para sakti rupa eva sarvatra apratihata. That desire, that ichha sakti of these people is indomitable. You can't suppress them. Apratihata. And parasakti rupa eva. And that is same as Swatantra Sakti of Paramashiva. They have reached there. They have no human desires. They are no more human. Sa Devi, this is from Swachanda Tantra, 10.727. Sa Devi Sarva Devi Nang Nama Rupesha Tishtati Yoga Maya Pratichanna Kumari Lokabhavini. Sa Devi Sarva Devi Nam Nama Rupesha Tishtati. That Parashakti takes different names and forms and appears. Like on this Navaratra period, we have different devis that we propitiate on different dates. Kali, Tara, Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi, Shodasi, Matangi, all these Barahi. We worship them. All these Nama Rupas do not have any isolated, independent existence other than who she is. And that you see when there was this fight between Shumba and Nishumba. And Mother Divine emanated from her own body all these devis who went and attacked him, even during Raktavija. And then Raktavija was bleeding. And from his blood, there were new Raktavijas appearing. Then he calls Kali. He's saying, oh my God, do you know what this guy is? Very difficult to kill him. You have to lick all the blood that comes out of his body. And then she killed him. It was easy to kill him. He fell apart. I look into it, a psychological secret. Whenever we try to suppress any of our desires, when we forcibly try to resolve any of our spiritual, emotional, or personal issues, it's like a bloody Raktavija. Our subconscious mind is like a bloody Raktavija. The more you hammer it, the more you suppress it, the more it rises in more numbers to trouble you, harass you, not let you ascend to the next spiritual plane. So there must be somebody who destroys the past sanskaras. And that's what, to my mind, in Bhagavad Gita or in other Vedantic Shastras, they say that once you are a yoga ruda, you're already established in yoga, the next task is no more to concentrate, but you have to get rid of your past sanskaras. Samakarana muchyate. So you have to do what? Manonasha, Bhashana Kshaya. Destroy the mental modifications, get rid of the past sanskaras and impressions lying in your hard disk. They are the Rakta Vijas, because given a little opportunity, they'll raise their heads and attack you. How do we do it? What is that Ma Kali? That Ma Kali is nothing. That is what we are doing in the Siva Sutra. And he will explain it in the next beautiful explanation he's saying, with human effort, we will not be able to destroy these past sanskaras. We will not be able to harness all the power and energy we have on our own. However, once we identify with this divine energy and the power, with the Paramashiva, when we are no more seeing ourselves as different from Paramashiva, remember, it's like there are 3 siblings in a house. These days, all families have 1 sibling or 1 child or 2 children. So when you have a fight between cousins, and there's a little boy who's a little vulnerable, his other cousin brothers and sisters are attacking him or snatching away his chocolate or anything or doll, that little boy or girl runs to the grandma sitting in the corner and falls on her lap and says, Mama, and done. All the cousins who are trying to attack him, they withdraw and retreat, because the grandma is a very powerful boss of the house. She's going to beat them off, shout at them. In West, of course, she can't beat anyone, but in India, she can do anything. She can give a slap or make them kneel down. She can do anything to them. So they withdraw. Once you take refuge in that supreme divine protection, in that consciousness, then the limitations of human consciousness, they become powerless. They lose their importance. You turn human, you suffer the limitations. You ascend, you don't suffer these limitations. That is the beauty of it. And therefore he says what? And he's saying, Sa Devi Sarvadevi Nang Nama Rupesya Tishtati Yoga Maya Pratichanna. Sees that she's hiding everywhere with the power of that veiling power of Yoga Maya. Kumari Loka Bhavini, and she's Kumari, can do anything, can destroy your evil, can create in the Loka Bhavini. She can fulfill anybody's desires. End of the day, we are doing this Kumari Puja, by the way, for the blessings to fulfill our things, isn't it? Because wealth comes, she will bless you as the Supreme Mother. Loka Bhavini. And then there is another such similar thing in the next one, Netra Tantra, another such thing. Why this fellow can wish anything and that's going to happen? Abheda Varaga interpretation, he's saying, Sa mamecha parasaktir avyukta swabhavaja. Sa yoginaha ichha. That ichha of the yogi, sa mamecha, and his ichha is my ichha. Sa mamecha. He doesn't have an ichha of his own. Why? He doesn't have any individuality. Sa mamecha parasaktihi. And that is my parashakti. And his ichha is no different from my ichha, which is parashaktihi. Avyukta swabhavaja. And it's not different. Avyukta, it's without. Swarupata, it's myself, it's my desire. Swabhavataha. And then what he says, Banhir Ushnam Eva Vigyeya. Can you separate heat from fire? The ability, the power to burn and fire. Can you distinguish, separate them? You can say this is heat and this is fire. That's fine. But you cannot separate them, isolate them. And what he says then, Rashmi Rupa Raveriva, Lord, the sun and the rays, sun rays, sunlight, can you separate them? No, they are emanating from the sun. Sarvasya Yogoto Vapi Sasakti Karanatmika. And that Icha Sakti of this Bhairava, can you imagine what power he attains? He is verily Shiva, Aham Brahmasmi. That is the level at which he is established. And therefore, he is saying that Parasakti Karanatmika Sarvasya Jagataha. And that is the causal factor behind this whole sansara. Iti tadetat. Then he's saying again in Spandakarika, beautiful. Nahicha nodanasyayam prerakatvena vartate api swatma balasparsat purushas tat samo bhaved. That's what I was mentioning earlier, that it will come. With his individual effort, he's not going to make anything happen. I have icha, I want to achieve it, I want to go there, I want to meet this fellow. No. Apitu, he's saying what? Apitu atmavala sparshat. Atma, what is that atmavala? That Isha Shakti, which is no different from Paramashiva, once he's established there, with the touch of divinity, where Sri Aurobindo says, everything is possible when God touch is there. Then what he says here is, Atma Balasparshat Purushaha Tat Samo Bhaved. Because of that touch of divinity and complete identification with that supreme power, Purushaha Tat Samo Bhaved. That sadhakaha yogi, that yogi, that Purusha, Shivo Samo Bhaved. He becomes Swarupata Atma eva, Paramashiva eva. Iti karikaya bhangya pratipaditam. Then there is another. So this is how sort of this particular sutra is coming to an end. There's a bit of interpretation also by other things, and we'll have a quick look at it. Now, towards the end, what is most interesting is that when you have the highest level, when you have that highest level thing, Avheda Paraka, absolute non-difference, that the Icha of the great yogi is identical. It's avinna with the Swatendra Shakti of Shiva. That is the summary. And the Kumari is that Swatendra Shakti engaged in the play of whatever, creating and sustaining and destroying this whole manifest universe, and also withdrawing this universe. And this will fit into what is the highest sadhana called Sambhava-paya. Then you have Shaktopaya, Bheda, Bheda Paraka, Bheda and Afar, duality and non-difference, both difference and non-difference, unity and diversity, whichever way you want to discuss it. And there what happens is that the Kumari here is Kumarayatiti. So whatever the dualities may appear in samsara, she will check it. Once she becomes Maya, she'll create the differences. She will have Pancha Kanchukatva. Here she is Paramashakti, Swatendra Shakti of Shiva. That inversion is yet to happen. Right? And therefore what happens is that she doesn't allow dispersal of one's unity of consciousness, a kind of diffusion, kind of spreading out, kind of getting entangled in all kinds of dualities. By allowing the dualities to sort of sneak into our consciousness, that willpower enables the sadhaka to do it. This is the Bheda Bheda Paraka. So dualities are recognized, threat of dualities are recognized, and also there is an alert which is mentioned in the form of divine protection, that Icha Shakti, and therefore the sadhaka is able to abide in the Supreme Shiva by sort of applying and by identifying with this Icha Shakti. That means a high level of willpower, but not as high as that complete non-difference level, where he is verily Lord Shiva himself. No, just a little below that. And then you have the Anava Upaya, the third category for the preliminary, or you have Madhyama and you have the, Prarambhika Sadhakas. For there, what he's saying, that Umari is saying, that the Icha Shakti of the yogi is always intent on meditating on the Shiva. Perhaps all of us will fit into this category very easily without any problem. And that's not a matter of shame, it's a matter of pride that you are being able to, or you are at least resolving to orient your consciousness supremely towards that unity with Paramashiva, but without any distraction, without any second thoughts. And that itself is a great protection against hell lot of other problems. So that is how we're sort of coming to an end of this verse, and we will go to the what happens then talk about how the samsara sort of unfolds and how we get entangled. So, but we have a little time. If you have, I didn't want to make it very long because I am on a fast, water fast for Navaratri. So I'm not in the best of sort of physical thing, but you can ask any questions. We have time for any questions, any doubts or anything. We have, we can go for another 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever. Any questions? Okay, no questions. Are you sure? Okay, so we can do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay, so we'll meet again on Saturday, same time. Is that Megha, Dr. Megha? Is that Megha that I met from Samlal College? Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not being audible. Anyway,
Hello.
yeah, is it Meghna
Uh,
that we met really in the college?
no, sir, I'm not that college from that college. I'm from
Uh-huh.
Rajasthan.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
You know, there's an economics professor in Samlal College. So she was, I think,
Okay.
Dr.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just okay.
okay.
So if you
I'm
want,
from Rajasthan and assistant professor of philosophy.
oh, great, great to have a philosophy professor. So you can
Yes, sir.
clear our doubts. It's good to have. And you
Thank
can
you, sir.
send, you can send me. I don't know how to send you the whatever the, what do you call the